I was sitting at my kitchen table on a Tuesday morning, coffee getting cold beside me, scrolling through our finances like I did every month. It was my routine. First Tuesday of the month, I'd check all our accounts, make sure everything was on track, update my budget spreadsheet. 17 years of this routine. 17 years of being the responsible one, the planner, the person who made sure our family stayed financially stable while my husband handled, well, I was starting to realize I didn't actually know what he handled. My daughter Maya's college fund was always the last account I checked, mostly because it never changed much between my monthly reviews. We'd set up automatic deposits years ago, $500 every month, like clockwork, sometimes more when we got tax refunds or bonuses. That account was sacred, untouchable. We'd started it the day Maya was born, and watching it grow over 17 years had been one of my greatest sources of pride. Last month it had been sitting at $87,455. We were so close to our goal of $100,000 before she graduated high school next year. I typed in the login information, expecting to see that familiar number with maybe another $500 added. The page loaded. My heart stopped. Balance, $3,247.18. I stared at the screen, convinced I'd logged into the wrong account somehow. I logged out, logged back in, checked the account number against my records. It was the right account. But the money, 17 years of sacrifice, of skipping vacations and driving old cars and saying maybe next year to things we wanted, was gone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely click on the transaction history. The withdrawals had started 6 months ago, small at first. $2,000 here, $1,500 there. Amounts that wouldn't trigger any alerts, that I might not notice in my monthly reviews if I was just glancing at the bottom line. But then they got bigger, bolder. $5,000, $8,000 there. A last withdrawal, made just 3 days ago, was for $15,000. Every single withdrawal had been made by my husband, his login, his authorization, his electronic signature. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, the morning sun streaming through the kitchen window, the smell of coffee in the air, birds chirping outside like it was just a normal day, like my entire world hadn't just imploded. My first thought, and I'll never forget this, wasn't anger. It was confusion. Pure, absolute confusion. There had to be an explanation. Maybe he'd moved the money to a better account with a higher interest rate. Maybe he'd invested it somewhere safer. Maybe there was a perfectly logical reason why he'd drained our daughter's college fund without mentioning it to me. I called him. My hands were still shaking as I held the phone to my ear. "Hey babe, what's up?" He sounded normal, casual, like he hadn't just stolen nearly $85,000 from our child. "Where's Maya's college money?" I kept my voice steady, giving him a chance to explain, to make this make sense. Silence. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "Marcus, where is the money?" It's fine. Don't worry about it. I moved some things around for a business investment. It's going to pay off big, and then we'll put it all back plus interest." His voice had changed. Defensive now. Guilty. "A business investment? What business investment? You don't have a business." I was standing now, pacing across the kitchen floor in my scrubs. I'd been about to leave for my shift at the hospital. "Look, I don't have time to explain this right now. I'm at work. We'll talk about it tonight, okay? Trust me, it's going to be fine." Trust him. He actually said, trust him. "Marcus, that's our daughter's college fund. 17 years of—" I said we'll talk about it tonight. He'd never yelled at me like that before. Never. Then he hung up. I stood there in my kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. That's when the confusion started turning into something else, something colder. I called in sick to work, the first time I'd done that in 3 years. Then I did what I should have done months ago, maybe years ago. I started looking, really looking. His car was in the driveway. He'd taken an Uber to work that morning, said his car was making a weird noise and he didn't want to risk it. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. Now I wondered what else I'd thought nothing of. I found his spare keys and went through his car like a crime scene investigator. And in the glove compartment, shoved under the insurance papers and registration, I found the receipts. Neiman Marcus. $3,847.52 for a Gucci handbag. I'd never owned anything from Gucci in my life. The Ritz-Carlton, $1,200 for a weekend stay. We hadn't been on a weekend trip in 2 years. Tiffany & Co. $5,600 for a diamond tennis bracelet. My wedding ring was a modest half-carat that I'd loved because it was ours, because we'd picked it out together when we were young and broke and building a life. Morton's Steakhouse, $487 for dinner for 2. I'd eaten ramen for lunch yesterday to save money. David Yurman, $2,300 for earrings. Saks Fifth Avenue, $4,200 in women's clothing, sizes I'd never worn. On and on and on. Dozens of receipts, dating back 8 months. I spread them out on the hood of his car and calculated the total on my phone. $67,943 of our daughter's college money, spent on another woman. I took photos of every single receipt. Then I kept digging. In the center console, I found a parking stub from an apartment complex across town. The Meridian Luxury Apartments. I looked it up on my phone. Studio apartments started at $2,400 a month. 1 bedrooms at $3,200. In the back seat, under the floor mat, I found a crumpled piece of paper, a lease agreement. He'd signed a year-long lease on a 1-bedroom apartment at the Meridian 3 months ago. First month, last month, and security deposit, $9,600, paid in full, from our daughter's college fund. The apartment wasn't in his name. It was in the name C. Rodriguez. I sat in the driver's seat of his car, the car I'd co-signed for, the car we were still making payments on, and pulled out his laptop from his work bag. He'd left it behind when he took the Uber. His password was Maya's birthday. It had always been Maya's birthday. The irony of that, of him using our daughter's birthday to protect the device that held evidence of him stealing from her, made me want to scream. I didn't scream. I looked. His email was a gold mine. Messages to someone named Candace Rodriguez, dating back 10 months. Baby, I can't wait to see you in that dress I bought you. The apartment is almost ready for us. Just a little longer, and I'll tell her. I promise. You're my future. She's just obligation. Obligation. He'd called me and our daughter an obligation. There were photos. Her wearing the Gucci bag, the tennis bracelet, the David Yurman earrings. Her, looking young and beautiful. She couldn't have been more than 25. Lounging in what I now knew was their apartment, the one he'd furnished with our daughter's future. Her, wrapped in his arms with a caption that read, "Forever starts now." I found his text messages, thousands of them. "I love you. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. She doesn't understand me like you do. Soon, baby. Soon I'll be free." There were Venmo transactions. He'd been sending her money, $500 here, $800 there, with little heart emojis and inside jokes. "For my princess. Because you're worth it. Counting down the days. I found a document titled New Life Budget, where he'd calculated how much money he'd need to leave me, to start fresh with her. He'd factored in divorce costs, child support, the bare minimum he could legally pay, and had concluded he needed $100,000 to make it work. He'd been $13,000 short. That's why he'd taken that final $15,000 from Maya's account 3 days ago. He'd almost had enough to leave us. I sat in that car for 2 hours, going through every file, every email, every text message, every photo. I documented everything, screenshots, photos, forwarded emails to my personal account. I created a hidden folder on his laptop labeled Car Insurance Quotes 2024 and saved copies of everything there, figuring he'd never look. Then I uploaded everything to a new cloud storage account he didn't know about. By the time I was done, I had a complete picture. Her name was Candice Rodriguez. She was 24 years old. She worked as a hostess at a high-end restaurant downtown, which explained all the expensive dinner receipts. He was probably showing off where she worked, tipping big, playing the successful man. They'd met 9 months ago when he'd gone there for a business lunch. She'd slipped him her number. He'd called her that same night. She thought he was divorced. That's what he'd told her. Said he had a teenage daughter from a previous marriage, that the ex-wife was difficult, that the divorce had been messy. She had no idea he came home to me every night, slept in our bed, sat across from our daughter at breakfast every morning. He'd been living a double life, and he'd been funding it with Maya's future. I put everything back exactly where I'd found it. Closed the laptop, locked the car, walked back into my house, the one I'd been making mortgage payments on for 12 years, while working double shifts at the hospital. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I didn't call my sister, or my best friend, or my mother. Not yet. Instead, I sat back down at my kitchen table with my now cold coffee, and I made a list. A very specific, very detailed list of exactly what I was going to do. At the top of the page, I wrote, "He stole from Maya. He stole her future." Now I take his boss. By the time Marcus came home that evening, ready to feed me some bullshit story about a business investment, I'd already retained the best divorce attorney in the city, scheduled an appointment with a forensic accountant, contacted the apartment complex to verify the lease, and compiled a 47-page document of evidence. He walked through the door at 6:30 p.m., his usual time, calling out, "Honey, I'm home," like he always did. I was sitting at the kitchen table, my laptop open in front of me, that 47-page document pulled up on the screen. "We need to talk," I said. He looked at my face and went pale. He knew. In that moment, he knew that I knew everything. "Baby, I can explain." "Sit down, Marcus," I said quietly, "and don't call me baby. That's what you call her, isn't it? Candice." I watched him crumble. Watched 17 years of lies collapse in real time on his face. And I smiled. Because the revenge I had planned was going to be so much worse than anything he could imagine. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, his briefcase slipping from his hand and hitting the floor with a dull thud. The color had drained from his face so completely that for a moment I thought he might actually pass out. Good. I wanted him off balance. I wanted him scared. "How did you?" he started, but I held up my hand. "Sit down." My voice was ice. I didn't recognize it as my own. He sat, moving like a man walking to his own execution. He pulled out the chair across from me, the same chair where he'd sat for 17 years of family dinners, birthday celebrations, homework help sessions with Maya. where he'd pretended to be a husband and father while planning his escape with our daughter's money. I turned my laptop around so he could see the screen. The first page of my evidence file stared back at him. A spreadsheet I'd created listing every transaction, every withdrawal from Maya's account, cross-referenced with every receipt I'd found in his car. "Let's start with the facts," I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. "On November 3rd, you withdrew $2,000 from Maya's college fund. That same day, you spent $2,100 at Nordstrom buying women's clothing, size 4. I'm a size 10, Marcus. I've been a size 10 since I had Maya." He opened his mouth. I kept talking. "November 17th, you withdrew $1,500. November 18th, you stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. I have the receipt. Room service for 2. Champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries. Very romantic." I clicked to the next page. December 2nd, $5,000 withdrawal. December 4th, Tiffany & Co. 1 diamond tennis bracelet, $5,600. You went over budget on that one. Had to use our joint credit card for the difference. That's on here too. I watched him shrink with every word, every date, every number. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Should I keep going? Because I have 8 months of this, Marcus. 8 months of you systematically stealing from our daughter, documented in excruciating detail. Every withdrawal, every purchase, every lie. I clicked through the pages slowly, methodically. You know what's funny? You kept every receipt, every single one, like some part of you wanted to get caught. Or maybe you're just that arrogant. Which is it? "I was going to put it back," he whispered. "The business investment." "There is no business investment." I slammed my hand on the table and he jumped. "Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I haven't been managing our finances for 17 years? There's no business, Marcus. There's just Candace." His eyes went wide. "How do you know her name?" I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. "Oh, honey, I know everything. I know her name, her age, where she works, where she lives, well, where you set her up to live in that luxury apartment you're paying for. I know you've been telling her you're divorced. I know you've been planning to leave me. I know you needed $100,000 to do it. And you were so close, weren't you? Just $13,000 short. That's why you took that last big withdrawal 3 days ago." I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through the screenshots I'd taken. "I have your text messages. All of them. You're my future. She's just obligation. That's what you called me and Maya. An obligation." I looked up at him, and I could see my pain reflected in his guilt-stricken face. "I have your emails. I have your Venmo transactions with the cute little heart emojis. I have your new life budget spreadsheet. Nice work on that, by the way. Very thorough. Did you enjoy calculating the minimum child support you could legally get away with paying? Please just let me explain." "Explain what? The lease agreement for the apartment? I have that too. C. Rodriguez. Very clever, putting it in her name. Except you signed as the co-signer, which means you're legally responsible. Did you tell Candace that when you stole $9,600 from your daughter to pay the deposit?" I leaned forward. "Here's what I want to know. Marcus, when you were tucking Maya in at night, reading her bedtime stories when she was little, helping her study for her SATs last year, listening to her talk about her dreams of becoming a doctor, when were you doing all of that while simultaneously planning to steal her future?" Tears were running down his face now. "I never meant to hurt Maya. I love her. I was going to—" "You were going to what? Pay it back? With what money? Your salary barely covers our mortgage and bills. That's why I work double shifts at the hospital, remember? That's why I've been picking up every extra hour I can. I thought I was doing it for our family. Turns out I was funding your mistress's lifestyle." I pulled out a folder, physical copies of everything, because I'd learned a long time ago that digital evidence could disappear. I slid it across the table to him. "This is every piece of evidence I've collected in the last 8 hours. Bank records showing the withdrawals from Maya's account. Receipts matching those exact amounts spent on Candace. The lease agreement. Text messages. Emails. Photos of her wearing the jewelry you bought her with our daughter's college money. Venmo transactions. Your budget spreadsheet planning your new life. Even parking stubs from the apartment complex with dates and times. He opened the folder with shaking hands, flipping through pages and pages of his own betrayal laid out in black and white. You know what the most damning thing is? I continued. You documented everything yourself. Every text message you saved, every email you didn't delete, every receipt you kept in your car like trophies. You created a perfect paper trail of your own fraud. A forensic accountant's dream case. A forensic accountant? His voice cracked. Oh yes, I hired one this morning. Susan Chen. She's the best in the state. Specializes in marital financial fraud. She's going to go through every single transaction from the last year with a fine-tooth comb. Bank accounts, credit cards, cash withdrawals, everything. And force the thing about forensic accountants, Marcus. They find things. Things you didn't even know you left behind. Patterns, irregularities, hidden accounts. I paused. You don't have any hidden accounts, do you? The way his face went even paler told me everything I needed to know. There was more. Of course there was more. Where else did you take money from? I asked quietly. I didn't. I wouldn't. Marcus, I have hired the best forensic accountant in the state. She will find every penny. You can tell me now, or you can let me be surprised when Susan's report comes back. Your choice. He broke. Completely. His head dropped into his hands, and he started sobbing. Actual, shoulder-shaking sobs. The emergency fund, he choked out. And I took out a loan against my 401k. $25,000. My stomach dropped. Our emergency fund, the $15,000 we'd saved for real emergencies, medical crises, job losses, gone. And he'd borrowed against his retirement, which meant penalties, taxes, and a massive hole in our future security. How much is left in the emergency fund? Nothing. It's gone. So it wasn't $87,000 he'd stolen. It was over $127,000 when you added the emergency fund and the 401k loan. $127,000 of our family's money spent on a 24-year-old woman who thought he was divorced. I added this new information to my notes, my hand surprisingly steady. What else? And I swear to God, Marcus, if I find out you've lied to me about anything else, I will make the divorce so ugly that you'll wish you'd never been born. That's everything, I swear. That's everything. I didn't believe him, but Susan Chen would find out soon enough. Here's what's going to happen, I said, closing my laptop. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with my attorney, Elizabeth Brennan. Perhaps you've heard of her. She handled the Ferguson divorce last year. Mr. Ferguson tried to hide assets overseas. Didn't work out well for him. He's paying 70% of his income in alimony and child support now. Marcus's face went even whiter, something I hadn't thought possible. Elizabeth is going to file for divorce on grounds of financial infidelity and fraud. Susan Chen's forensic accounting report will be attached as evidence. Every receipt, every text message, every email, all of it will be submitted to the court. Then we're going to file a police report for theft. Because that's what this is. Marcus, you stole from your own daughter. There are actual laws against that. You can't, the police won't. Won't what? Prosecute a man who systematically drained his minor child's education fund to support his affair? Want to bet? I lean back in my chair. And here's the best part. I'm going to make sure everyone knows. Your mother, your father, your brothers, my family already knows. I called my sister this afternoon. Your boss? He's going to find out too, because I'm pretty sure you've been using company time and resources for this affair. Those lunch meetings that ran long, the business trips that seemed suspicious, Susan's going to track all of that. Please, he whispered. Please don't do this. I'll fix it. I'll get the money back. I'll end things with Candace. We can go to counseling? You'll fix it? I stood up, and he flinched like he thought I might hit him. I wouldn't. I didn't need to. You stole our daughter's future. You stole the money I've been working myself to exhaustion to save. You betrayed 17 years of marriage, 17 years of partnership, 17 years of me trusting you with our finances and our life. And you think you can fix it? I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up an envelope I'd prepared before he got home. Inside were copies of the most damaging evidence, just enough to show him I meant business. I dropped it on the table in front of him. Those are for you to keep. Consider it a preview of what the judge is going to see, what the police are going to see, what everyone in your life is going to see. I suggest you find yourself a good attorney. You're going to need one. Where are you going? He asked as I grabbed my purse and keys. To my sister's. Maya's at her study group until 9 p.m., and I'm going to pick her up from there. She's going to stay with my sister for a few days while I handle this. You have until Friday to find somewhere else to live. I'm changing the locks on Saturday. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. This house is in both our names, but I've been making the mortgage payments from my account for the last 3 years while you've been playing sugar daddy. I have the bank records to prove it. Elizabeth says I have every legal right to ask you to leave while the divorce is pending. If you refuse, I'll get a restraining order. Given the evidence of financial abuse and deception, I don't think I'll have any trouble getting one. I headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Marcus, you might want to tell Candace the truth before I do, because I found her Instagram, her Facebook, and her phone number. I'm giving you 24 hours to come clean with her about the fact that you're still married, still living with your wife, and that every gift you bought her was stolen from your daughter. If you haven't told her by tomorrow night, I will, and I'll make sure she knows exactly where that money came from. You wouldn't. Try me. You have no idea what I'm capable of when someone threatens my child. I opened the door. 24 hours, Marcus, and if I were you, I'd spend tonight packing. I walked out, got in my car, and drove 3 blocks before I had to pull over because my hands were shaking too badly to drive. I sat there in a grocery store parking lot and let myself feel it. All the rage, all the betrayal, all the bone-deep hurt of realizing the man I'd loved for 17 years had been systematically destroying our family for his own selfish desires. But I only let myself feel it for 10 minutes. Then I wiped my eyes, fixed my makeup, and called my sister. It's done, I said when she answered. Phase 1 complete. How did he take it? Like a man who just realized he's about to lose everything. I took a deep breath. Tomorrow we move to Phase 2. Can you keep Maya busy this weekend? I don't want her anywhere near him while I'm executing the rest of the plan. Already planned a girls' weekend. Shopping, movies, mani-pedis. She won't suspect a thing. Perfect. Because by Monday morning, her father is going to be facing criminal charges, divorce papers, and a frozen bank account. I want her insulated from the fallout until I can explain it to her properly. You're scary when you're focused, my sister said, but there was admiration in her voice. He stole from my baby, I said quietly. From our baby. He deserves everything that's coming to him. And I meant every word. Because Marcus had made one critical mistake in all of this. He'd assumed I was weak. He'd assumed I'd be too shocked, too hurt, too dependent on him to fight back. He'd left a paper trail because he'd never imagined I'd follow it. He was about to learn just how wrong he'd been. I picked Maya up from her study group at 9 p.m., watching her laugh with her friends as they said goodbye, their arms full of textbooks and SAT prep materials. She was so beautiful, not just physically, though she was stunning with her father's height and my smile, but beautiful in the way she moved through the world, confident, kind, brilliant. She had a 4.2 GPA, was captain of the debate team, volunteered at the Children's Hospital on weekends. She'd already been accepted to 3 universities, with 5 more applications still pending. Her dream school was Johns Hopkins. Their pre-med program was one of the best in the country. She slid into the passenger seat, still smiling, her natural hair pulled back in a puff. Her future doctor hoodie that I'd bought her for her 17th birthday stretched across her lanky frame. "Hey, Mom, sorry we ran late. We were doing practice essays for the scholarship applications and lost track of time." She leaned over and kissed my cheek. "Mrs. Patterson said my essay about wanting to work in underserved communities was the strongest she's read this year. She thinks I have a real shot at the Pemberton Scholarship. That's $40,000 a year, Mom. Can you imagine?" I could imagine. I'd been imagining Maya's future since the day she was born. Every choice I'd made for 17 years had been with her future in mind. The extra shifts I worked, the vacations we skipped, the old car I drove while other nurses my age bought new ones. All of it had been for this, for watching my daughter reach for stars I'd once thought were unreachable. And her father had tried to steal it from her. "That's amazing, baby," I said, my voice only shaking slightly. "I'm so proud of you." She must have heard something in my tone because she turned to look at me more closely. "Mom, you okay?" "You look tired." "Just a long day at work," I lied. I couldn't tell her yet, not like this, not in the car, not before I had a plan for how to explain that her father, the man she adored, the man who taught her to ride a bike and helped her build her science fair projects and never missed one of her debate competitions, had betrayed her in the worst possible way. "Aunt Tasha called me," Maya said as I pulled out of the parking lot. "She invited me to stay with her this weekend. Said something about a girls' weekend, shopping and movies and stuff." She looked at me suspiciously. "What's going on? You two never plan stuff without telling me first." My sister and I had always been close, and Maya knew our patterns well. She was too smart to be easily fooled. "Your aunt just thought it would be fun," I said. "You've been working so hard on college applications and studying. You deserve a break." "Uh-huh." She didn't believe me, but she let it drop. "Well, I'm not going to say no to a shopping trip. I need new shoes anyway. These are literally falling apart." She lifted her foot to show me her worn sneakers, and my heart clenched. We could have afforded new shoes months ago if her father hadn't been spending thousands on his mistress. We drove in silence for a few minutes, and I could feel her watching me. "Mom, seriously, what's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. I promise we'll talk this weekend. Right now, I just want you to enjoy your study group success and think about your scholarship essay." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "I love you, Mom. You know that, right? Everything I am, everything I'm going to be, it's because of you. The way you work so hard, the way you never give up, the way you always put me first. You're my hero." I had to pull over again. I literally could not drive through the tears that suddenly blinded me. "Mom," Maya was alarmed now. "What's happening? Are you sick? Is Grandma okay?" "I'm fine. Everyone's fine," I managed to say. I'm so proud of you. So incredibly proud. And I want you to know that no matter what happens, your future is secure. You're going to go to whatever school you want. You're going to become the amazing doctor I know you'll be. Nothing is going to stop that. I promise you." She looked scared now. "You're really freaking me out." I wiped my eyes and forced myself to breathe. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm just emotional. Ignore me. Hormones or something." I pulled back onto the road. "Let's go home and get you packed for Aunt Tasha's." When we got home, Marcus's car was gone. Good. I texted my sister from the study group parking lot and asked her to call him with some fake emergency that required him to meet her across town. It would buy me time to get Maya packed and out of the house before he returned. Maya went upstairs to pack, and I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the folder of evidence I'd shown Marcus earlier. Inside was the systematic destruction of everything I'd built for my daughter. Every receipt, every bank statement, every text message where he'd called us obligations he couldn't wait to shed. I thought about Maya, at 6 years old, gap-toothed, and excited, telling everyone she wanted to be a doctor like the ones who'd helped her grandmother. I thought about her at 10, winning her first debate competition and dedicating it to my parents who believe in me. I thought about her at 14, crying in my arms after a boy broke her heart, and her father sitting with her for hours, teaching her chess as a distraction, telling her she was too smart and too special to waste tears on someone who didn't see her value. Had that man been real, or had it all been a performance? I thought about last month when Maya had shown us her acceptance letter to Howard University with a partial scholarship. She'd been glowing, radiant with joy and pride. "I'm going to be a Howard woman just like Grandma wanted," she'd said. Her father had picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. I'd taken a photo. It was still on my phone. They looked so happy, so connected. Had he already been planning to steal from her then? Had he already taken $60,000 from her account? Had he held our daughter and celebrated her achievement while knowing he was destroying her future? My phone buzzed. A text from Elizabeth Brennan, the attorney I'd retained that morning. "Reviewed the evidence you sent. This is one of the worst cases of marital financial fraud I've seen. We have grounds for criminal charges, civil suit, and a very favorable divorce settlement. Can you come in tomorrow at 9 a.m.? We need to move quickly to freeze assets and protect what's left." I texted back, "I'll be there." Another text came through, this time from Susan Chen, the forensic accountant. "Preliminary review shows additional red flags. Found evidence of a second credit card you may not know about. Balance is $43,000. Need access to all financial records ASAP. This is bigger than the college fund. $43,000. On top of everything else." I felt sick. Maya came downstairs with her overnight bag, still looking concerned. "Mom, where's Dad? His car's not here." "He had to run out for a bit. Work thing." The lies were getting easier, and I hated that. "Listen, baby, I need to talk to you about something." She sat down across from me, her face serious. "Okay, you're scaring me, but okay." I looked at my daughter, this brilliant, beautiful, trusting girl who still believed the world was fair and that people you loved didn't hurt you, and I knew I couldn't tell her everything yet. Not until I had all the pieces in place. Not until I could tell her that yes, her father had betrayed us, but that I'd fixed it, that her future was secure, that she didn't have to worry. "I need you to know that I love you more than anything in this world," I said, "and that whatever happens in the next few weeks, your college fund is protected. You're going to Johns Hopkins or Howard or wherever you want to go. That's not changing. Okay?" "Why would that change?" she asked, confused. "We've been saving my whole life. Unless—" her eyes widened. "Did something happen to the money? Did the bank make a mistake? Or—" "Nothing for you to worry about," I interrupted. "I'm handling it. I just need you to trust me and spend the weekend with Aunt Tasha. Can you do that?" She studied my face for a long moment. "Does this have something to do with Dad?" She was too perceptive. Always had been. "Baby, he's been acting weird," she said quietly. "For months. He's on his phone all the time. He's been working late a lot. And last week I saw him at the mall, when he was supposed to be at the office." She looked down at her hands. "He was with a woman. A young woman. They were shopping together. He was buying her things. I didn't say anything because I thought maybe she was a work colleague or something, but—" She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Is Dad cheating on you?" My heart shattered. "You saw them?" "I hid," she whispered. "I didn't want him to see me because I didn't want to know if what I was thinking was true. I've been pretending I didn't see it, hoping I was wrong." A tear rolled down her cheek. "But I wasn't wrong, was I?" I pulled her into my arms, and she broke down sobbing against my shoulder. My baby girl, crying because her father had destroyed her image of him, of us, of our family. "I'm so sorry," I whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry." "How long has it been going on?" she asked through her tears. "I just found out today, but from what I can tell, several months." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Are you getting divorced?" "Yes." She nodded slowly, processing. Then, what was that about my college fund? Why did you bring that up? This was the moment. I could lie, protect her a little longer, or I could tell her the truth and let her be part of fighting back. I chose the truth. She deserved that much. Your father took money from your college account. A lot of money. He's been spending it on her, the woman you saw. I watched my daughter's face cycle through emotions, confusion, disbelief, hurt, and then something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Rage. Pure, righteous rage. How much? Her voice was deadly calm. Most of it. How much? $87,000. Plus the emergency fund. Plus he took a loan against his retirement. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. He stole my college fund? My college fund? The money you've been working double shifts for? The money Grandma put in before she died? The money from my birthday checks and summer jobs? He stole it to spend on some woman? Yes, she was pacing now, her hands clenched into fists. I can't go to college. Oh my God, I can't go to college. All those applications, all that work, all those dreams. Stop. I stood and grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. Look at me. You are going to college. You are going to Johns Hopkins or wherever you want to go. I promise you that. I am fixing this. How? How can you fix $87,000? I have lawyers. I have a forensic accountant. I have evidence of everything he's done. By the time I'm finished with your father, every penny will be back in your account, plus interest, plus penalties. He will pay for what he's done to you. She looked at me with an expression far too old for her 17 years. I want to help. Baby, you don't need to. He stole my future. That's my money he spent on her. I want to help make him pay. Her jaw was set in a way that reminded me of myself. What do you need me to do? I looked at my daughter, no longer a child, but a young woman who just learned the hardest lesson life can teach. That people you love can hurt you in ways you never imagined. And instead of falling apart, she was standing tall, ready to fight. She was stronger than I'd ever given her credit for. Okay, I said, here's what we're going to do. I pulled out my laptop and showed her everything. The evidence, the timeline, the receipts. I watched her face harden with each revelation. When I showed her the text where he'd called us obligations, she laughed, a harsh, bitter sound I'd never heard from her before. He thinks I'm an obligation, she said. The daughter he claimed was his greatest achievement. The girl he helped with homework every night, who he taught to drive, who he said he was so proud of. She looked at me. It was all fake, wasn't it? Everything was fake. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe some of it was real. Maybe all of it was real at one point, and then he changed. Or maybe we just never really knew him. But it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is protecting you and your future. She nodded slowly. What's the plan? Over the next hour, I laid it out for her. The divorce filing, the criminal complaint for theft, the civil suit against both him and Candace for intentional infliction of emotional distress, the forensic accounting that would uncover every hidden penny, the strategy to ensure she kept the house, that her college fund was restored, that he paid for what he'd done. Maya listened, asked questions, took notes. When I was finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Good, she finally said, but I want one more thing. What's that? I want to tell him what I think of him, face to face, before all of this goes down. I want him to know that he didn't just lose you. He lost me too, and I want him to know that it's his own fault. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to protect her from that confrontation, from having to face her father's betrayal directly. But another part of me, the part that had raised this strong, brilliant young woman, knew she needed this. She needed to look him in the eye and let him know exactly what he destroyed. Okay, I said, we'll do it together. Tomorrow, before you go to Aunt Tasha's. But on our terms, in our time, when we're ready. She hugged me tight. Thank you for fighting for me, Mom. Thank you for not just accepting this. Baby, I would burn the world down for you. He should have known that. That night, after Maya went to bed at my sister's house, I sat alone in my kitchen and thought about the conversation I'd had with Elizabeth Brennan that afternoon. The hardest part of these cases, she'd said, is helping the children understand. They lose their image of their parent. They lose their sense of security. Even when we win, and we will win, there's a cost that can't be calculated in dollars. She was right. Maya would never look at her father the same way again. Even if he somehow made amends, even if he crawled back begging forgiveness, something fundamental had broken that couldn't be repaired. He'd stolen more than money. He'd stolen her ability to trust him, her belief that she was valued, her sense that she came first in his life. For that alone, I would make sure he paid every possible consequence. Because Maya deserved better. She deserved a father who would work 3 jobs before touching a penny of her college fund. She deserved a father who would sacrifice his own comfort for her future. She deserved a father who saw her not as an obligation, but as the blessing she was. She deserved better than Marcus had proven himself to be, and I was going to make damn sure she got everything she deserved, starting with a college education that was now funded by her father's complete and total financial ruin. I woke up at 5 a.m. the next morning in my sister's guest room, my mind already racing through the checklist Elizabeth Brennan had given me. I hadn't really slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those receipts, those text messages, that smug smile on Candace Rodriguez's face in the photos wearing jewelry bought with my daughter's future. But I wasn't tired. I was wired, focused, determined. For 15 years, I'd been the peacemaker in our marriage, the one who smoothed over conflicts, who compromised, who made excuses for Marcus when he forgot anniversaries or showed up late to Maya's events. I'd been the one who worked double shifts at the hospital while he complained about his stressful sales job. I'd been the one who managed our budget down to the penny while he casually swiped credit cards without thinking. I'd been the soft one, the accommodating one, the one who kept the peace. That woman died the moment I saw our daughter's college fund balance at $3,247. The woman who woke up that morning was someone different, someone harder, someone who'd spent 15 years building muscles she didn't know she had, and now it was time to use them. I made coffee in Tasha's kitchen and opened my laptop. Elizabeth had sent me a draft of the divorce petition at midnight. The woman was as ruthless about her work hours as she was about her cases. I read through it carefully, making notes, checking every detail against the evidence I'd compiled. The petition was brutal. It laid out every withdrawal, every lie, every betrayal in cold legal language that somehow made it even worse. Systematic financial fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, intentional depletion of marital assets, fraudulent misrepresentation. Each phrase was a nail in Marcus's coffin. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I opened a new document and started writing. Everything I could remember about our finances over the past year. Every time Marcus had said he was working late. Every time he'd been vague about where money was going. Every red flag I'd dismissed because I'd trusted him. At 35 years old, I'd spent half my life with this man. We'd met when I was 20, just starting nursing school, and he was 22, working his first sales job. We'd been broke together, happy together, building a life from nothing. I'd believed in us. I'd believed in him. When Maya was born, I'd looked at him holding our daughter and thought I was the luckiest woman alive. What a fool I'd been. No, I stopped that thought immediately. I wasn't a fool. I was a woman who'd loved and trusted her husband. That wasn't foolish. That was what marriage was supposed to be. He was the one who'd betrayed that trust. He was the one who'd weaponized my love and faith in him. I wasn't going to let him make me feel stupid for having been a good wife. My phone rang. Elizabeth Brennan, right at 6 a.m., like she'd promised. "Morning," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "I hope you got some sleep, but I'm guessing you didn't." "Not really." "Good. Use that energy. We've a lot to do today. I heard papers shuffling. I'm filing the divorce petition at 9 a.m. when the courthouse opens." and also filing an emergency motion to freeze all joint accounts and credit cards. Susan Chen's preliminary report gave us enough ammunition to argue that he's actively depleting marital assets, which means we can get a judge to lock everything down immediately. How fast can we move on the criminal complaint? I have a contact at the DA's office. Given the amount and the fact that the victim is a minor, yes, Maya is the victim here. Not you. They'll take it seriously. I'd estimate we'll have charges filed within a week. A week. In 1 week, Marcus would be facing criminal charges for stealing from his own daughter. What about Candace? I asked. Can we go after her? Potentially. If we can prove she knew he was married and actively participated in the depletion of assets, we might have a case for civil conspiracy. But honestly, from the messages you showed me, it looks like he lied to her too. She might actually be willing to cooperate with us if we approach her correctly. That was interesting. What do you mean? Think about it. She's 24 years old, probably not making much money as a restaurant hostess. He's been showering her with expensive gifts, paying for a luxury apartment, playing the generous older man. Now she's about to find out all of that was stolen money, and she's potentially implicated in a crime. If she's smart, she'll want to distance herself from him as fast as possible. And if she's angry enough about being lied to, she might be willing to testify about his spending habits, his lies, his plans. I smiled. You want to flip her? I want to use every resource available to ensure your daughter gets justice. If that means turning the mistress into a witness, then yes. I like the way you think. That's why you hired me. Now, let's talk about your meeting with him today. Are you sure you want Maya there? I'd told Elizabeth about Maya's request to confront her father. The lawyer had been hesitant, but ultimately supportive. She needs this, I said. She needs to look him in the eye and let him know what he destroyed. And honestly, I need her there too. She makes me stronger. Okay, but we do it at my office, not your home or anywhere he might feel comfortable. My conference room, my turf, my rules. I'll be there as a witness to everything that's said. If he tries to manipulate or gaslight either of you, I shut it down. Agreed? Agreed. 10 a.m. Don't be late. After we hung up, I went to check on Maya. She was already awake, sitting up in the guest bed with her phone, her face illuminated by the screen. Can't sleep either? I asked from the doorway. She looked up, and I saw that she'd been crying. I keep thinking about all the times he said he loved me. Was any of it real, Mom? Or was I just in the way of what he really wanted? I sat on the edge of her bed and pulled her into my arms. Baby, I don't know what was going on in his head. Maybe he did love you. Maybe he still does, in whatever broken way he's capable of loving. But what I do know is that love isn't just words, it's actions. And his actions showed that when it came down to choosing between his own selfish desires and your future, he chose himself. I hate him, she whispered. Is that wrong? He's my father and I hate him. It's not wrong, it's honest. And right now, honest is all we've got. She pulled back and wiped her eyes. What time are we meeting him? 10 o'clock, at my lawyer's office. Good. Her jaw set in that determined way again. I've been writing down everything I want to say to him. Is that okay? More than okay. In fact, I've been doing the same thing. We spent the next 2 hours preparing. Maya practiced her statement, her voice shaking at first, then growing stronger with each repetition. I reviewed my evidence one more time, making sure I had answers to any excuse or justification he might try to throw at us. At 9:30, we drove to Elizabeth Brennan's office. It was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel and expensive taste. The receptionist recognized my name immediately and ushered us into a large conference room with a view of the city. Elizabeth arrived a few minutes later, dressed in a sharp black suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She shook Maya's hand with the same respect she'd shown me. You must be Maya. Your mother's told me a lot about you. I understand you're applying to Johns Hopkins? Yes, ma'am, Maya said quietly. Excellent school. My nephew went there for pre-med. You're going to love it. She set her briefcase on the table and pulled out several thick folders. Before your father gets here, I want to make something very clear. This meeting is not a negotiation. We're not here to listen to excuses or promises. We're here to let him know exactly what he's facing and to give you both a chance to say what you need to say. After that, all communication goes through me. Understood? We both nodded. Good. He should be here any minute. I texted him this morning and told him we needed to discuss the marital assets. He doesn't know you'll be here, she said, looking at Maya. I thought the element of surprise might keep him honest. At exactly 10 a.m., the receptionist buzzed. Mr. Williams is here. Send him in, Elizabeth said. The door opened and Marcus walked in looking like he hadn't slept either. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot, and he moved with the defeated posture of a man who knew his world was ending. But when he saw Maya sitting next to me, he stopped dead. What is she doing here? He asked, looking at me with something like panic. Sit down, Mr. Williams, Elizabeth said coldly. Your daughter has every right to be at this meeting, considering you stole her college fund. He sat, his eyes darting between the three of us. I told you I was going to pay it back. I just need time. You've had 8 months, I interrupted. 8 months to stop, 8 months to come clean, 8 months to do the right thing. You didn't, so we're done waiting. Elizabeth slid a document across the table. These are the divorce papers. They're being filed as we speak. You're being served right now, actually. There's a process server waiting outside. I wanted you to hear the details from us first. He picked up the papers with shaking hands, flipping through pages that detailed every betrayal, every theft, every lie. You're also going to be served with a criminal complaint, Elizabeth continued. Theft from a minor. Financial fraud. We have evidence of every withdrawal, every purchase, every cent you spent on your mistress using your daughter's money. The DA's office is very interested in this case. Criminal charges? His voice cracked. You can't. I'm her father. You're a thief, Maya said, her voice steady and strong. That's what you are. Not my father. A thief. He turned to her, his eyes filling with tears. Maya, baby, please. I made a mistake. I love you. Don't. She held up her hand. Don't call me baby. Don't say you love me. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't look at 17 years of savings and see shopping money for your girlfriend. She's not my... I ended things with her. I don't care, Maya said. I don't care about her or your relationship or your excuses. I care that you looked at my future, my dreams, my education, everything I've worked for, and you decided it was worth less than impressing some woman. That's not what happened. Then what happened? Maya leaned forward, and I'd never been more proud of her. Explain it to me, Dad. Explain how you accidentally withdrew $87,000 from my college account. Explain how you accidentally spent it on designer bags and jewelry and a luxury apartment. Explain how you accidentally lied about it for 8 months. I'm listening. He had no answer. He just sat there, mouth opening and closing like a fish, tears streaming down his face. I've been thinking about all the times you helped me with homework, Maya continued. All the debate competitions you came to. All the times you told me I could be anything I wanted to be, that you'd support my dreams no matter what. Was any of that real, or were you just playing the good father role while planning to abandon us? It was real, he choked out. Maya, I swear, I love you. I never meant to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You hurt me worse than anyone has ever hurt me in my entire life. You know what the worst part is? It's not even the money. It's that you made me doubt every good memory I have of you. You made me question every I love you, every hug. Every moment where I thought I had a father who would do anything for me, you destroyed that. You can't give that back, no matter how much money you repay. I watched my daughter break my husband down with nothing but the truth, and I felt something fierce and protective rise in my chest. She didn't need me to fight this battle for her. She was fighting it herself, and she was winning. I have something to say too, I said quietly. Marcus turned to me with desperate eyes. Please, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll get help. I'll do whatever it takes. I don't want to fix this, I said. I want you to understand what you've done, not just to Maya, but to me. I pulled out my own folder, the one I'd been working on all morning. Inside were photos, our wedding day, Maya's birth, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, vacations. 17 years of memories captured in snapshots. I've spent the last 15 years of my life working myself to exhaustion for this family, I said, spreading the photos across the table. I picked up every extra shift at the hospital. I drove a car that was falling apart because we needed to save money. I wore scrubs that were 3 years old and shoes with holes in them. I did all of that because I believed we were building something together. I believed we were partners working toward a common goal, giving our daughter a better life than we had. I pointed to a photo of us at Maya's 8th grade graduation. This was 3 years ago. Remember this day? Maya got the Academic Excellence Award. You gave a speech about how proud you were, how she was proof that hard work and dedication pay off. The whole time you were saying that, were you already thinking about how to steal from her? No, I wasn't. That came later. When? When did you decide our family wasn't enough? When did you decide Maya's future was expendable? I leaned forward. I need you to answer that question, Marcus. Not for legal reasons. Elizabeth has all the evidence she needs, but because I gave you 15 years of my life, and I deserve to know when you decided to throw it away. He was sobbing now, his face in his hands. I don't know. I don't know when it started. I met Candace and she made me feel young again, important, like I was more than just a husband and father with a mortgage and responsibilities. It felt good to be wanted like that. So you felt old and tired and decided the solution was to steal from your daughter? I shook my head. You could have talked to me. You could have said you were unhappy. You could have asked for a divorce before you started an affair. You could have done 1,000 things that didn't involve betraying everyone who loved you. I know that now. I was selfish and stupid and... You were cruel, I corrected. Selfish and stupid is having an affair. Cruel is funding that affair with your daughter's college money. Cruel is lying to both of us for months while we trusted you. Cruel is making me work myself into the ground while you spent our savings on another woman. That's not just weakness, Marcus. That's malice. Elizabeth cleared her throat. Mr. Williams, I think you understand the severity of the situation. The divorce will proceed. The criminal charges will be filed. We will be seeking full restoration of the college fund plus penalties, full custody of Maya, and a division of assets that reflects your systematic depletion of marital property. I suggest you retain an attorney as soon as possible. I can't afford an attorney, he whispered. I lost my job. I have nothing. You have your retirement account, Elizabeth said coolly. What's left of it after the loan you took out? I suggest you use it. You're going to need representation. He looked at me one more time. I'm so sorry for all of it. I know you won't believe me, but I am. You're right, I said, standing up. I don't believe you. And even if I did, it wouldn't change anything. Come on, Maya. We're done here. Maya stood, gathering her dignity around her like armor. She looked at her father, really looked at him, and I saw the moment she let go of whatever part of her had still been hoping this was all a misunderstanding. Goodbye, Dad, she said. I hope whatever you got from her was worth losing everything. We walked out of that conference room together, mother and daughter, warriors both. In the elevator going down, Maya said, I thought I'd feel better after saying all that, but I just feel empty. That's normal, I said. Closure doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like ending. When does it start feeling better? When we rebuild. When we take everything he tried to destroy and make it stronger. When you walk across that stage at Johns Hopkins in 4 years with your degree, knowing you earned it despite him, not because of him, that's when it'll feel better. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Thank you for being strong enough for both of us. Baby, you were just as strong as me in there, maybe stronger. I learned from the best. We drove back to Tasha's house, where my sister was waiting with comfort food and righteous fury. She'd always been the protective older sister, and learning what Marcus had done had turned her into an avenging angel on our behalf. "How'd it go?" she asked as soon as we walked in. "He cried," Maya said. "A lot." "Good. He should cry. He should cry every day for the rest of his miserable life." Tasha pulled us both into a hug. "I'm so proud of you two. Taking him on like that, most women would have just fallen apart." "I did fall apart," I admitted, "for about 10 minutes on Tuesday. Then I got angry, and anger is so much more useful than grief." My phone buzzed. A text from Elizabeth. "He's been served, both the divorce and the criminal complaint. He tried to argue with the process server. Police were called. Thought you'd want to know." I showed it to Tasha and Maya. We all smiled, not happy smiles, but satisfied ones, the kind of smiles that come from knowing justice is being served. "Phase 1 complete," I said. "Now we move to Phase 2. "What's Phase 2? Maya asked. I pulled out my laptop and opened my detailed plan. Pages and pages of strategy I'd developed over the last 48 hours. Phase 2 is making sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man your father is. His family, his friends, his colleagues. Everyone who might be tempted to take his side or believe his version of events. We control the narrative." "How?" Maya asked, leaning in to read my notes. "Social media, character witnesses, court testimony. We paint a picture of systematic betrayal and financial abuse so clear that no one can deny it. By the time we're done, his reputation will be as destroyed as he tried to make our future." "That seems harsh," Maya said, but she didn't sound disapproving. She sounded curious. "Is it harsh to tell the truth?" I asked. "Is it harsh to make sure people know that a man stole from his own daughter?" "I don't think so. I think it's just honest." Tasha was nodding. "I'll help. I know most of his family. I can make sure they hear the real story before he has a chance to lie to them." "Perfect," I said, adding her name to my list of allies. "We're also going to need Maya's teachers, her guidance counselor, people who can testify about her achievements and her character. We want the judge to see exactly what he tried to steal from her. Not just money, but potential." Over the next several hours, we planned. We strategized. We prepared for every possible countermove Marcus might make. It felt good to be doing something, to be taking action instead of just reacting to his betrayal. At 35 years old, I'd thought I knew who I was. A nurse, a mother, a wife. Competent, but not particularly fierce. Capable, but not warrior-like. I'd been wrong about that. Just like I'd been wrong about Marcus. The woman I'd become over the past 48 hours was someone I barely recognized, but someone I was beginning to respect. Someone who didn't accept betrayal quietly. Someone who fought back with intelligence and strategy instead of just emotion. Someone who protected her child with the ferocity of a mother bear and the precision of a surgeon. Marcus had made a fatal miscalculation. He'd assumed I'd be devastated and helpless. He'd assumed I'd be too heartbroken to think clearly, too dependent on him to fight back effectively. He'd forgotten that I'd been the strong one all along, the one who worked double shifts while he complained about his job, the one who managed our money while he spent thoughtlessly, the one who raised our daughter while he played golf on weekends. He'd forgotten that I didn't need him. I never had. And now he was about to learn exactly what it cost to underestimate a woman who'd spent 15 years building strength he'd never bothered to notice. The war had just begun, and I fully intended to win. The call came from Elizabeth Brennan at 2:47 p.m. on Friday afternoon, exactly 72 hours after I confronted Marcus in her conference room. "It's done," she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. The judge signed the emergency orders. All joint accounts are frozen, effective immediately. He can't touch a penny without court approval. His credit cards have been canceled. And the real cherry on top? The judge ordered him to vacate the marital home within 24 hours. I was sitting in my car outside the hospital where I worked, about to start my evening shift. I'd taken 2 days off to deal with the initial crisis, but I needed to get back to work, partly for the money, partly for the normalcy, partly because I needed my patients to remind me that there was still good in the world. "What about the criminal charges?" I asked. "Filed this morning. The DA herself is handling it. Apparently she has a daughter applying to colleges this year, and your case hit close to home. Marcus will be arraigned on Monday. Bail will probably be set, but given his employment situation, I doubt he can make it." Bail. My husband of 15 years might not be able to make bail. The thought should have given me pause, should have made me feel guilty. It didn't. It felt like justice. "There's more," Elizabeth continued. Susan Chen finished her forensic analysis. "You need to sit down for this." "I'm already sitting. The second credit card we found, the one with the $43,000 balance, it was taken out in your name. He forged your signature on the application." My hands went numb. What? Identity theft. That's a separate felony charge. But here's the really interesting part. Susan traced where that money went. Some of it went to Candace, but a lot of it went to someone named Brianna Mitchell. Ring any bells? No. Who is she? Another woman, younger even than Candace, 22 years old, works at a gym where Marcus had a membership. Susan found Venmo payments, hotel receipts, restaurant charges. This wasn't just Candace. It was at least 2 affairs, possibly more. He's been running multiple women for over a year. The parking lot seemed to tilt. I gripped the steering wheel to steady myself. "How many?" "We've identified 2 for certain. There might be others. Susan's still digging." But here's the critical part. The credit card fraud gives us additional leverage. We're adding it to the criminal complaint, which means he's looking at multiple felony charges now. His attorney, and he finally retained one, some bargain basement guy named Patterson, is going to be desperate to make a deal. Pause. What kind of deal? Pause. We let the identity theft charge slide if he agrees to full restitution of the college fund, gives up all claims to the house and his retirement account, and accepts minimal visitation with Maya. Basically, he signs away everything in exchange for us not pursuing charges that could send him to prison for 5 to 10 years. And if he doesn't agree, then we prosecute everything to the fullest extent of the law. He goes to trial, gets convicted, serves time, and still loses everything in the divorce. His choice. Elizabeth paused. "What do you want to do?" I thought about Maya. About her saying she felt empty after confronting her father. About her sitting up at night wondering if any of her memories were real. About her future, the one I'd fought so hard to protect. "I want him to lose everything," I said. "But I also want this over as quickly as possible." Maya needs closure. She needs to be able to focus on her senior year and college applications without this hanging over her. How long would a trial take? Months, maybe a year. Then we offer the deal. But I want it in writing, ironclad, signed by a judge. Every penny of that college fund restored within 30 days. Plus $50,000 in penalties for our pain and suffering. The house is mine, free and clear. He signs over his portion of the equity. His retirement account is liquidated. Half goes to restore the college fund, half goes to me as a settlement. Child support at the maximum percentage until Maya turns 21, with automatic wage garnishment so he can't skip payments. And supervised visitation only. I don't trust him alone with her until he proves he's not going to try to manipulate her. Done. I'll have the settlement agreement drawn up by end of business today. His attorney will take one look at the alternative and strongly advise him to sign. Elizabeth? Yes? Thank you for believing me, for fighting for us. Honey, this is the easiest case I've had in years. The evidence is airtight. The victim is sympathetic, and the defendant is an absolute idiot who documented his own crimes. You did all the hard work. I'm just making it official. After we hung up, I sat in my car for a few more minutes, processing. Multiple affairs, identity theft, credit card fraud in my name. Every time I thought I'd reached the bottom of Marcus's betrayal, there was another layer beneath it. How had I missed this? How had I lived with this man, slept beside him, raised a child with him, and never seen what he really was? But I knew the answer. I'd trusted him. I'd believed in the fundamental goodness of the man I'd married, and he'd weaponized that trust against me. Never again. Whatever relationships I had in the future, if I ever trusted anyone enough to have a relationship again, I would never be that naive, that blind, that vulnerable. My phone buzzed. A text from Tasha. Maya wants to know if she can come home this weekend. She misses her room and her things. Is it safe? I texted back, Marcus has 24 hours to move out. After that, yes. Tell her we're getting the locks changed tomorrow and he won't have keys anymore. It's our house now. Our house. Mine and Maya's. The house I'd been making mortgage payments on for 3 years while Marcus drained our savings. The house where I'd nursed my baby, helped with homework, celebrated birthdays and holidays. The house that was finally, legally, undeniably ours. I went into work and threw myself into my shift. There's something grounding about nursing. Dealing with immediate, solvable problems. A patient in pain needs medication. A family needs information about their loved one's condition. A child needs comfort after a scary procedure. These were problems I could fix, unlike the mess of my personal life. During my break at 10 p.m., I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Marcus. 2 voicemails. 7 text messages. I didn't listen to the voicemails, but I scrolled through the texts. Please, we need to talk. This is insane. You're destroying our family. I can't believe you do this to me. You're turning my daughter against me. I have nowhere to go. How am I supposed to survive with no money and no job? I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life. I screenshot each message and forwarded them to Elizabeth with a note. Evidence of harassment. Please advise. She texted back immediately. Do not respond. Save everything. If he continues, we'll add a restraining order to the mix. These messages show 0 remorse and 0 acceptance of responsibility. Perfect for court. The next morning, Saturday, I met a locksmith at the house at 8 a.m. Marcus's car was gone. He'd apparently cleared out sometime in the night, taking only his clothes and personal items. The house felt lighter without him in it, like a dark cloud had lifted. The locksmith changed every lock, front door, back door, garage, even the side gate. New keys for me and Maya. No copies for anyone else. Messy divorce? The locksmith asked, not unkindly. The messiest, I confirmed. You're doing the right thing. Had a daughter go through something similar. Her ex kept coming back, taking things, trying to control her, even after the split. New locks helped her feel safe again. Safe, yes. That was what I wanted. For Maya and me to feel safe in our own home. After he left, I walked through the house room by room, reclaiming it. The living room, where Marcus used to watch sports with his feet on the coffee table, mine now. The kitchen, where he'd kiss me goodbye before work, while planning his affairs, mine now. Our bedroom, my bedroom, where he'd slept beside me while texting other women, definitely mine now. I went into his closet. He'd taken most of his clothes, but there were still items left behind. Old shoes, a few forgotten shirts, his golf clubs that he'd bought 2 years ago and barely used. I pulled everything out and piled it in the garage. He could arrange to pick it up, but he wasn't coming back into this house, ever. In the back of his closet, behind a stack of sweaters, I found a shoebox. Inside were more receipts, more evidence I hadn't seen before. Hotel rooms I didn't know about, restaurants in cities he'd supposedly visited for work, a receipt for a weekend at a bed and breakfast in wine country, dated the same weekend he'd told me he had a sales conference in Phoenix. I took photos of everything and sent them to Elizabeth. She responded, just when I think he can't get worse, adding these to the file. My phone rang. Maya. Mom, can we come home now? Please? Aunt Tasha's been amazing. But I miss my room. I miss my stuff. I miss being home. Yes, baby. Come home. The locks are changed and it's just us now. Our house, our rules, our life. She arrived an hour later with Tasha, both of them carrying the bags Maya had packed for what was supposed to be a weekend stay. It had turned into a week, but now she was home. Maya walked through the house slowly, touching things, checking rooms, making sure it was still her home, even though everything had changed. It feels different, she said finally. Better or worse? She thought about it. Cleaner. Like something toxic got removed. She looked at me. Is that weird? Not even a little bit. Tasha stayed for lunch, helping us settle back in, and we filled her in on everything that had happened in the last 72 hours. She was particularly incensed about the identity theft. He forged your signature? That's beyond betrayal. That's criminal. That's literally what the charges are, I said. Multiple felonies. Elizabeth thinks his lawyer will convince him to take the settlement deal. What if he doesn't? Maya asked quietly. What if he decides to fight? Then we go to trial and we win, I said firmly. The evidence is overwhelming. Susan Chen's forensic analysis is bulletproof. We have documentation of everything. A jury would convict him in under an hour. But you'd have to testify, Maya said. We both have to testify, in public. With people watching, she was right. A trial would mean exposing every intimate detail of our family's destruction in open court. It would mean Marcus's lawyers attacking our credibility, trying to make him look sympathetic, painting me as a vindictive ex-wife. If it comes to that, we'll handle it, I said. But I don't think it will. His lawyer isn't stupid. He'll see that Marcus has no defense and convince him to take the deal. On Monday morning, I took a personal day from work to attend Marcus's arraignment. Elizabeth said I didn't have to be there, but I wanted to see it, needed to see it, needed to watch him stand before a judge and answer for what he'd done. The courtroom was exactly like the ones on TV, wood paneling, American flag, judge's bench looming over everything. There were maybe a dozen other cases being heard that morning, mostly minor offenses, DUIs, drug possession, shoplifting. Then Marcus was brought in. He looked terrible. His court-appointed suit was too big, his face was drawn, and he had the 1,000-yard stare of someone in shock. When he saw me sitting in the gallery, his eyes widened, but I kept my face completely neutral. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 40s named Rebecca Ortiz, laid out the charges. Theft from a minor in the amount of $87,000. Identity theft and credit card fraud totaling $43,000. Financial fraud. The defendant systematically looted his daughter's college fund and opened fraudulent credit accounts in his wife's name to fund multiple extramarital affairs. The judge, an older black woman named Judge Marion Harris, looked at Marcus over her reading glasses. How do you plead? His lawyer, the bargain basement Patterson, stood up. Not guilty, Your Honor. My client disputes the characterization of these transactions. Does your client dispute making the withdrawals? Judge Harris interrupted. Patterson hesitated. No, but does your client dispute opening the credit card in Mrs. Williams' name? The circumstances are complicated, Your Honor. Does he dispute it or not, Counselor? Patterson looked at Marcus, who shook his head miserably. No, Your Honor. Then I'm setting bail at $50,000. Cash or bond? Next case. $50,000. There was no way Marcus could make that. His parents were retired and living on a fixed income. His brothers had their own families to support. He'd alienated most of his friends, and he'd burned through every asset he had access to. He was led away, and I watched him go without feeling anything. No satisfaction, no pity, no regret. Just nothing. He'd become a stranger who had once had access to my life. Elizabeth met me in this hallway outside the courtroom. Patterson asked to meet with me this afternoon. He's going to push for the settlement. How do you know? Because his client can't make bail, has no job, no assets, and no defense. He's going to sit in county jail until trial unless he takes the deal. Patterson knows it. Marcus is about to figure it out, and we hold all the cards. We met with Patterson at 3 p.m. in Elizabeth's office. He was a tired-looking man in his 50s with a rumpled suit and the resigned air of someone who took on hopeless cases for not enough money. "My client wants to settle," he said without preamble. "We have terms," Elizabeth said, sliding a document across the table. "Full restitution of the college fund, plus $50,000 in damages. The house goes to Mrs. Williams. Mr. Williams' retirement account is liquidated to pay restitution. Maximum child support with wage garnishment, supervised visitation, and Mrs. Williams keeps all marital assets except his personal belongings." Patterson read through it, his expression growing more pained with each paragraph. "This leaves him with nothing. Your client stole his daughter's future," Elizabeth said coldly. "He's lucky we're offering any deal at all. The alternative is prosecution on all charges, prison time, and he still loses everything in the divorce. At least this way, he stays out of jail. He can't survive with no assets and maximum child support. He should have thought of that before committing multiple felonies. These terms are non-negotiable. He signs by end of business Friday, or we go to trial." Patterson looked defeated. "I'll talk to him. You do that. And counselor, make sure he understands that this offer expires in 4 days. After that, we're going for the throat." After Patterson left, Elizabeth turned to me. "He'll sign. He has no choice. And if he doesn't, then we destroy him in court. But he will. Men like Marcus are fundamentally cowards. When faced with actual consequences, they fold." She was right. On Thursday afternoon, Patterson called to say Marcus would sign the settlement agreement. We scheduled the formal signing for Friday morning at the courthouse, with Judge Harris presiding, to make it official. Friday morning, I put on my best suit, the navy one I bought for job interviews years ago, and drove to the courthouse with Maya beside me. She'd insisted on being there, on watching her father sign away everything he'd tried to steal. We met Elizabeth in the lobby. She looked at Maya with approval. "You didn't have to come." "Yes, I did," Maya said. "I need to see this end." Marcus was already in the courtroom when we arrived, sitting next to Patterson with his shoulders hunched and his eyes on the floor. He didn't look up when we walked in. Judge Harris entered, and we all stood. She looked at the settlement agreement, then at Marcus. "Mr. Williams, do you understand the terms of this agreement?" "Yes, Your Honor," he said quietly. "You're agreeing to pay full restitution of $87,000 to your daughter's college fund, plus $50,000 in damages to your wife. You're surrendering all claim to the marital home. You're liquidating your retirement account. You're agreeing to maximum child support payments. You're accepting supervised visitation with your daughter. Do I have that right?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you understand that if you violate any term of this agreement, the criminal charges will be reinstated and prosecuted to the full extent of the law?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Sign here." He signed. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely hold the pen, but he signed. Then I signed. Then Elizabeth signed as witness. Then Judge Harris stamped it with her seal. "This agreement is now legally binding and enforceable by this court. Mr. Williams, you have 30 days to complete the restitution payments. Mrs. Williams, the house is yours as of today. I'm also issuing a restraining order. Mr. Williams, you are not to come within 500 feet of Mrs. Williams or her residence except for court-mandated supervised visitation with your daughter. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Good. We're adjourned." It was over, just like that. 15 years of marriage ended with a signature and a judge's stamp. We walked out of that courtroom and Maya grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. "Is it really over?" she asked. "The legal part is," I said. "Now we start rebuilding." My phone buzzed. A notification from the bank. A deposit had been made to Maya's college fund. $87,000. Marcus's retirement account had been liquidated, and the money was already being transferred. Elizabeth had moved fast. I showed Maya the notification. She stared at it for a long moment. "It's really back," she whispered. My future, it's really back. It never went anywhere, baby. We were always going to find a way. This just makes it easier. We went out for lunch, a celebration at Maya's favorite restaurant. The one we usually only went to for special occasions. We ordered too much food and dessert and laughed more than we had in weeks. My phone rang during dessert, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Williams, this is Candace Rodriguez. I froze. Maya saw my face and mouthed, Who is it? Candace, I mouthed back. Maya's eyes went wide. What do you want? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. I wanted to apologize. I know it probably doesn't mean anything to you, but I'm sorry. I didn't know he was married. I didn't know about his daughter, about the college fund. He told me he was divorced, that his ex-wife was difficult, that her voice broke. I believed him. And then when I found out the truth, when I saw what he'd done, I ended it immediately. I returned every gift I could return. I broke the lease on the apartment. I wanted you to know that I had no idea. I would never have if I'd known. Why are you telling me this? Because his lawyer contacted me. He wants me to testify on Marcus's behalf, to say that I didn't know where the money came from, that he told me he was wealthy. But I can't do that. I won't lie for him, not after what he did to you and your daughter. So I wanted to call you first, to tell you that if your lawyer needs me to testify about what he told me, about the lies he told, I will. I'll tell the truth about everything. I looked at Maya, who was watching me intently. Why would you do that? Because I have a little sister. She's 16. If someone did to her what he did to your daughter, I'd want them to pay for it. I'd want them to face consequences. And because, she took a shaky breath, because he used me, he made me part of hurting you, and I hate that. I hate that I was his weapon even though I didn't know it. So if I can help make this right, I want to. The case is settled, I said. He signed the agreement this morning, but I appreciate you calling. And for what it's worth, I believe you. I don't think you knew. Thank you, she whispered. And I really am sorry. Your daughter, she's lucky to have a mother who fought for her like you did. After she hung up, I told Maya about the conversation. She sounded genuinely sorry, I said. She was a victim too, in a way. Maybe, Maya said. But she still got to walk away. We had to fight. She was right. But I chose to take Candace's apology at face value. She'd been lied to, used, and manipulated. She'd ended things when she learned the truth. And she'd offered to help us if we needed it. That took courage. Over the next 2 weeks, the money continued to come through. The $50,000 in damages. The child support payments set up with automatic garnishment. The final transfer of the house into my name alone. Marcus's life, as I knew it, from mutual friends and social media, fell apart completely. He moved into a cheap apartment across town. He was working at a call center for barely above minimum wage, all he could get with his record and his reputation. His family stopped speaking to him after learning the full truth. His friends disappeared. His social media accounts went dark. He'd lost everything. His wife, his daughter, his home, his savings, his job, his reputation, his future. And I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for him. Because every time I thought about feeling pity, I remembered that moment in the hospital bed when I'd seen the notification. I remembered Maya's face when I told her the money was gone. I remembered 17 years of trust betrayed for the thrill of an affair and the ego boost of a younger woman's attention. He'd made his choices. Now he was living with the consequences. And me? I was living with my daughter in our house, watching her college fund grow with interest, helping her finalize her college applications, planning our future. A future he was no longer part of. And that felt exactly like justice. 3 weeks after the settlement was finalized, I got a call from an unknown number at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I almost didn't answer. I'd been getting good about ignoring unfamiliar calls, but something made me pick up. Hello? Heavy breathing, then crying. Then, Mrs. Williams, this is Candace again. I'm so sorry to call this late, but I didn't know who else to contact. He's outside my apartment. He won't leave. He keeps banging on the door and screaming, and I'm scared to call the police because I don't want to make things worse, but I don't know what to do. Slow down, I said, sitting up in bed. Marcus is at your apartment right now? Yes. He's been here for an hour. He's drunk, I think. He keeps yelling about how I ruined his life, how if I just kept my mouth shut and testified for him, he wouldn't have lost everything. He's saying I owe him, that I need to take him back, that we can still be together. Her voice rose in panic. But I don't want to be with him. I never want to see him again. He lied to me about everything. Candace, hang up and call 911 right now. Tell them there's an intoxicated man harassing you and you feel threatened. Then call me back after the police arrive. But what if he tells them about the affair? What if? He's violating your peace and safety. That's all that matters. Call the police, now. She hung up. I sat in my bed, heart pounding, thinking about Marcus drunk and angry, outside his former mistress's apartment. The Marcus I'd known for 15 years, rarely drank, and never made scenes. But that Marcus was gone. This new version, desperate, broke, humiliated, was unpredictable. My phone rang again 20 minutes later. Candace, her voice shaky, but calmer. The police came. They arrested him. He tried to run, but he was too drunk. They said he'll be charged with trespassing and drunk and disorderly conduct. Maybe harassment too. She took a shaky breath. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. Was that okay? Should I have? You absolutely did the right thing. And Candace? Document everything. Get a restraining order tomorrow morning. Don't wait. I will. Thank you. I'm sorry to drag you into this. You didn't drag me into anything. He did this. All of this is his fault. I paused. How long has he been harassing you? Since the settlement. At first, it was just texts, asking to meet up, saying we should try again, that he'd made a mistake choosing his family over me. I blocked him. Then he started showing up at my work. My manager had to tell him to leave. Then tonight, she started crying again. I thought he loved me. I thought we had something real. But he was just using me, wasn't he? Just like he used you. Yes, I said simply. That's what he does. He finds vulnerable women and makes them feel special until he doesn't need them anymore. I found out about Brianna, Candace said quietly. The other woman. He was seeing both of us at the same time, telling us both the same lies. Did you know about her? Not until the forensic accountant found the evidence. How did you find out? She contacted me on Instagram. She saw my name in some of the court documents that got filed publicly. She wanted to know if I was the other woman who'd broken up his marriage. Candace laughed bitterly. I told her I thought I was the only other woman. Turns out there were at least 3 of us. She knew about someone named Ashley too. 3. At least 3 affairs that we knew about, maybe more that hadn't been discovered. Brianna's pressing charges too, Candace continued. He stole from her. She'd given him $5,000 to invest in his business. There was no business. He just spent it on Ashley. Brianna's furious. She's a single mom working 2 jobs, and she gave him her savings because she believed in him. I felt sick. How many women had he lied to? How many people had he hurt while I'd been home working double shifts, believing I was married to a decent man? Mrs. Williams, are you still there? I'm here. I'm just processing. Listen, if you need anything, if he contacts you again, if you need advice on the restraining order, anything, you can call me. I know that sounds crazy, but we're in this together now. All of us women he deceived. Thank you, she whispered. I really am sorry for my part in all of this. After we hung up, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Candace, Brianna, Ashley, all of us believing different versions of the same lies. All of us manipulated by a man who saw women as interchangeable accessories to his ego. The next morning, I called Elizabeth Brennan. Marcus got arrested last night. Drunk and disorderly, trespassing, possibly harassment. He was at Candace Rodriguez's apartment, causing a scene. Idiot, Elizabeth said succinctly. That's a violation of his settlement terms. He was supposed to be on his best behavior. There's more. He was running multiple affairs simultaneously. At least 3 women, possibly more. One of them, Brianna Mitchell, gave him money that he stole. She's pressing charges. This man is a gift that keeps on giving. Every time I think we've seen the worst of him, he does something else spectacularly stupid. I heard typing. I'm making notes. If he violated the settlement terms, we can go back to court and make his life even more miserable. I want to meet them, I said suddenly. Meet who? The other women. Candace, Brianna, whoever else there is. I want us all to understand what he did, how he operated. I want them to know they're not alone. Elizabeth was quiet for a moment. That's either brilliant or crazy, maybe both. What are you hoping to accomplish? Closure. For all of us. And maybe we can help each other. We all trusted the wrong man. We all paid a price for it. But together, we can make sure he doesn't do this to anyone else. I'll reach out to Candace's attorney. She retained one this morning for the restraining order. See if she's willing to meet. Can't hurt. 2 days later, I found myself sitting in a coffee shop across from 3 women I never thought I'd meet. Candace Rodriguez, 24, petite, with long dark hair and eyes that had learned to be wary. Brianna Mitchell, 28, a tall black woman with an exhausted elegance that spoke of too many responsibilities and not enough help. And Ashley Chen, 31, stylishly dressed in a way that suggested she'd been trying to impress someone who wasn't worth the effort. We sat in awkward silence for a moment, 4 women connected by one man's betrayal. And then began a quiet moment of awkward silence. Ashley finally said, I slept with your husband. Despite everything, I laughed. Hi, I'm his wife, or ex-wife, I guess. Nice to meet you. That broke the ice. We all laughed, the kind of slightly hysterical laughter that comes from situations too absurd to process normally. I'm Candace. I'm the one who sent you those photos. She looked at me with genuine remorse. I didn't know, I swear to God, I didn't know you existed. He showed me photos on his phone of his ex-wife and his daughter from a previous marriage. The photos were of you, but he said you were his ex. I believed him. I'm Brianna. I gave him $5,000 from my savings because he said he was starting a consulting business and needed startup capital. He promised to pay me back double. I'm a single mother of 2. That money was supposed to be for my daughter's dental work. Her jaw tightened. Instead, he spent it on her. She gestured at Ashley. Don't look at me, Ashley said, raising her hands. I didn't know about the borrowed money. He bought me things, sure, but I thought he had money. He drove a nice car, wore expensive clothes, talked about his big sales commissions. How was I supposed to know it was all stolen? Did he tell you he was divorced too? I asked. Separated. Said his wife was mentally unstable and had custody of their daughter because of her family's connections. Said he was in a messy divorce and couldn't wait for it to be over so we could be together publicly. She shook her head. I actually felt sorry for him. I thought I was helping him through a difficult time. We spent the next 2 hours sharing stories, and the pattern became horrifyingly clear. Marcus had a type, not physically, but emotionally. He targeted women who were vulnerable in some way. Candace had just moved to the city and didn't have a support system. Brianna was overwhelmed as a single parent. Ashley was coming out of a bad relationship and looking for something stable. He'd studied each of us, figured out what we needed to hear, and become that person. To Candace, he was the exciting older man who made her feel sophisticated. To Brianna, he was the successful businessman who could provide security. To Ashley, he was the stable, reliable partner after years of dating emotionally unavailable men. And to me, he'd been the loving husband and father, until he wasn't. He told me his wife, you, didn't understand him, Candace said, looking at me apologetically. that you'd grown apart, that you cared more about work than your marriage, that he felt invisible in his own home. I thought about all those double shifts I'd worked to save for Maya's college fund, the fund he'd been stealing from while complaining that I worked too much. He told me his ex-wife had cheated on him, Ashley added, that she'd destroyed his ability to trust, that I was helping him learn to love again. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so devastating. How did you all find out the truth? I asked. Candace told her story, seeing my Facebook post, cross-referencing dates, realizing everything he'd told her was a lie. Brianna's discovery was more direct. I saw you two at the courthouse when he was being arraigned. I'd gone there to file my own complaint about the stolen money, and I saw him with his lawyer. Then I saw you sitting in the gallery, and the prosecutor kept saying his wife, and I thought, that can't be right. He said he was divorced. So I looked you up on social media, saw photos of you two together, recent photos, married photos. That's when I knew. Ashley had been the last to find out. Candace messaged me. I thought she was just another jealous woman at first, but then she sent me proof. Court documents, photos of him with all of us. The timeline of when he was with each of us. I couldn't deny it anymore. What I don't understand, Brianna said, is how he had the time. He was working, or said he was working. He had a family. How did he juggle all of us? He didn't really have a family, I said quietly, not in any meaningful way. He was present physically, but not emotionally. He helped with homework sometimes, showed up to some events, but I was doing most of the parenting. And he traveled for work, or said he did. Those business trips? Those late nights at the office? I looked at each of them. Those were probably with one of you. We pieced together a timeline, comparing notes on when he'd been with each of us. The picture that emerged was of a man who'd compartmentalized his life so completely that he'd been able to maintain multiple relationships simultaneously. Monday and Wednesday evenings with Candace, Tuesday and Thursday with Brianna. Weekends, when he claimed to be playing golf or having guys' nights with Ashley. And the rest of the time, at home with me and Maya, playing the role of husband and father. Did any of you? Candace started, then stopped. Never mind. What? I asked. Did any of you love him? Like, really love him? Or were you all just... She struggled for words. I thought I loved him, but now I don't know if I loved him or if I loved who he pretended to be. The question hung in the air. Finally, Ashley spoke. I thought I did. But looking back, I think I loved the idea of him, the stability, the attention, the way he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I was one of at least 4. I cared about him, Brianna said. But love? I'm not sure. I'm a single mom. When a man shows interest and seems responsible and offers help, you want to believe in it. You want to believe someone's going to share the load. But he never really helped. He just took. They all looked at me. I thought about 15 years of marriage, the good times, and there had been good times early on. The way he'd held me when my father died, the pride on his face when Maya was born, the small kindnesses that had made me believe we were partners. I loved him, I said. The man I thought he was, the man he pretended to be for 15 years. But that man never really existed. So did I love him, or did I love a performance? We sat with that question, 4 women mourning relationships that had never been real. I'm pressing charges, Brianna said suddenly, for the theft. My lawyer says I have a good case. I already filed for a restraining order, Candace added, after the incident at my apartment. He violated it yesterday, sent me emails from a fake account. My lawyer's documenting everything. I reported him to his new job, Ashley said. He'd been bragging about a position at some company. I called HR and told them he was under investigation for fraud and identity theft. They terminated him during his probation period. They all looked at me. Don't stop, I said. Any of you. Document everything. Press every charge. File every complaint. He counted on all of us being too ashamed or too scared to fight back. But we're not ashamed. We didn't do anything wrong. He did. Aren't you worried about revenge? Candace asked. He's already shown up at my place once. That's why you have a restraining order. And if he violates it again, he goes to jail. The more consequences he faces, the more he'll realize that harassing any of us isn't worth it. I leaned forward. Here's what he doesn't understand. We're not isolated anymore. We're not individual targets he can pick off one by one. We're a network now. If he threatens one of us, we all respond. We all document. We all press charges. A victim's alliance, Ashley said with a small smile. I like it. We exchanged phone numbers, created a group chat, Marcus Victims Support Group, Brianna named it, and we all laughed despite the darkness of the situation. Over the next several weeks, Marcus learned what it meant to face coordinated opposition. Every attempt to contact any of us was documented and reported. Every violation of the restraining orders resulted in police reports. Brianna's theft charges moved forward. Ashley's report to his employer cost him another job. Candace's testimony about his lies became part of my divorce record, making it harder for him to claim he was the victim. But the real turning point came when a fourth woman contacted us through the group chat. Her name was Melissa Torres, and she was 42, a successful real estate agent who'd met Marcus at an open house 6 months ago. He told me he was a widower, she wrote. Said his wife had died of cancer 3 years ago, and he was finally ready to date again. He showed me photos of his late wife. They were photos of you at a hospital fundraiser, Mrs. Williams. He said you were in hospice in that photo. I believed him because why would someone lie about that? Why indeed? Except Marcus would lie about anything if it served his purposes. Melissa had given him money too, $8,000 for what he claimed was his daughter's medical expenses. She needs surgery, he'd told her. The insurance doesn't cover all of it. I hate to ask, but my daughter has never needed surgery, I told Melissa when we met in person. She's perfectly healthy. Melissa's face hardened. I want to destroy him. Get in line, Ashley said. But there's room for everyone. With Melissa's evidence added to everything else, Elizabeth Brennan filed a motion to revoke Marcus's settlement agreement and reinstate all criminal charges. The pattern of continued fraud, the violations of restraining orders, the ongoing harassment, all of it painted a picture of a man who hadn't learned anything from his consequences. Your Honor, Elizabeth argued at the hearing, Mr. Williams agreed to a settlement that allowed him to avoid prison time in exchange for making restitution and ceasing his predatory behavior. Instead, he has continued to defraud women, violate protective orders, and harass his victims. He has learned nothing. The court's leniency has been met with contempt. I'm asking that the original criminal charges be reinstated and prosecuted fully. Marcus's lawyer, his third one, as the previous two had quit, tried to argue that his client was struggling with mental health issues, that he needed treatment, not punishment. Judge Harris was unmoved. Mr. Williams has had multiple opportunities to change his behavior. Instead, he has targeted vulnerable women, stolen their money, and harassed them when they discovered his lies. Mental health issues do not excuse predatory behavior. Motion granted. The settlement is revoked. Mr. Williams will be remanded into custody pending trial on all original charges, plus the new charges filed by Ms. Mitchell, Miss Torres, and the violations of protective orders. Marcus was handcuffed and led away. He didn't look at any of us. Me, Maya, Candace, Brianna, Ashley, and Melissa, sitting together in the gallery. After the hearing, we went out for dinner. 6 women, connected by one man's betrayal, now connected by something stronger, the shared experience of surviving and fighting back. I never thought I'd be grateful for any of this, Candace said, raising her glass. But meeting all of you, learning I'm not alone, realizing that what happened wasn't my fault, that's been healing in a way I didn't expect. To the Marcus Victims Support Group, Brianna said, may we all find better men in the future. To finding ourselves first, Ashley corrected. Better men can wait. With clinks glasses, and Maya, who'd been quietly listening to everything, spoke up for the first time. "Can I say something?" "Of course," I said. "I've been so angry at all of you," she admitted, looking at Candace, Brianna, and Ashley. "Not Melissa, because I didn't know about her, but the rest of you. I blamed you for breaking up my family. But tonight, listening to your stories, I realize you didn't break anything. He did. And you're victims too. So, I'm sorry for blaming you." Candace's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. That means more than you know. And I want you all to know," Maya continued, her voice stronger now, "that if you ever need anything, like anything at all, you can call me or my mom, because we're not just connected by what he did to us. We're connected because we all survived him." "Smart kid," Ashley said to me. "You raised her right." "I did my best," I said, putting my arm around Maya, "though she's teaching me a few things too." As we left the restaurant that night, Candace pulled me aside. "I need you to know something. When I sent you those photos, when I was with him, I thought I was happy. I thought I'd found someone special. But looking back, I was miserable. He was controlling. He criticized everything. My clothes, my friends, my job. He isolated me. He made me feel like I needed him to be complete." She met my eyes. "You saved me. By exposing him, by fighting back, you saved me from years of that. Maybe from worse. So thank you." "You saved yourself," I corrected gently. "By believing the truth when you saw it. By ending things. By pressing charges. That was all you." She hugged me, and I hugged her back. This woman who'd sent me those devastating photos was now someone I considered an ally. Maybe even a friend. Life was strange that way. Over the following months, Marcus's trial proceeded. He was convicted on multiple counts of fraud, theft, and harassment. The judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison, with possible parole after 3. "Mr. Williams," Judge Harris said at sentencing, "you have shown a pattern of predatory behavior that targeted vulnerable women and destroyed families. You stole from your own daughter's education fund. You defrauded multiple women financially and emotionally. You showed no remorse and continued your behavior even after facing consequences. This court believes you are a danger to any woman unfortunate enough to trust you, and society needs to be protected from you." 5 years. He'd be 45 when he got out, if he made parole. Maya would be graduated from medical school. I'd be 40, hopefully having built a life so full and rich that he was nothing but a distant memory. The mistress who thought she'd found a successful, generous man had instead found a con artist who destroyed multiple lives. The predator who thought he could manipulate vulnerable women indefinitely had instead created a network of survivors who refused to be silent. And the wife who'd been betrayed had discovered she was stronger than she'd ever imagined, and that she wasn't alone. In the end, Candace Rodriguez got more than she bargained for when she got involved with Marcus Williams. But so did he, and his bargain was far, far worse. The day Marcus was sentenced to 5 years in prison, I took Maya out of school early and we drove to the bank together. Elizabeth had called that morning with the final numbers. Between the liquidated retirement account, the garnished wages from his brief employment stints, funds seized from his accounts, and the forced sale of assets I hadn't even known he'd hidden, the full $137,000 had been recovered and deposited into Maya's college fund. Plus the additional $50,000 in penalties. We sat in the bank manager's office as she pulled up the account on her computer screen. Balance, $187,247.18, she read aloud, smiling at Maya. "That's quite an impressive college fund, young lady." Maya stared at the number, her eyes filling with tears. "It's really all there. Every penny. Every penny, and then some," I said, squeezing her hand. "Plus the interest that's been accruing. By the time you graduate from Johns Hopkins, there might even be money left over for medical school." The bank manager printed out a statement for us, physical proof that what had been stolen had been restored. Maya folded it carefully and put it in her backpack, right next to her acceptance letter to Johns Hopkins that had arrived 2 weeks earlier. We walked out of the bank into the bright November sunshine. Maya stopped on the sidewalk and just breathed for a moment. "Mom?" "Yeah, baby." "I know I should feel happy right now. The money's back, he's in prison, we won. So why do I still feel—" She struggled for the word. I sat down on a nearby bench and pulled her down beside me. Because money and justice don't heal emotional wounds. They help, they matter, but they don't erase what happened, or give you back the father you thought you had. I miss him sometimes, she admitted quietly. Not the real him, the him I thought he was. The dad who helped me with my science projects. The dad who taught me to drive. Even though I know now it was probably all fake, some part of me still misses believing in it. "It wasn't all fake," I said carefully. "I've been thinking about this a lot. I think there were moments when he was genuine, when he did love us, in whatever limited way he was capable of loving. But people are complicated, Maya. Someone can be a good father in some moments and a terrible person in others. Both things can be true. That doesn't make it hurt less. No, it doesn't. And that's okay. You're allowed to grieve what you lost, even if what you lost wasn't entirely real." We sat there for a while, watching people walk by with their ordinary problems and ordinary lives. Then Maya's phone buzzed. A text from her guidance counselor. "Meeting tomorrow to discuss your valedictorian speech. Congratulations again." "Valedictorian," Maya said with a small smile. I forgot that was happening with everything else going on. "You earned it. 4 years of straight A's, captain of the debate team, hospital volunteer, peer tutor. None of what he did can take that away from you." "Will you come to graduation?" "Baby, I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world." "What about him? Does he get to know that I'm valedictorian, that I got into Johns Hopkins?" "That's entirely up to you. You don't owe him anything, including updates about your life." She thought about it. "I don't want him to know. I don't want him to get to feel proud when he gave up the right to be proud. My accomplishments are mine. He doesn't get to claim any part of them." "Then he won't know. Not from me." The next 6 months moved quickly. Maya finished her senior year with the same excellence she'd always shown. She gave her valedictorian speech about resilience, about overcoming adversity, about the people who support you being more important than the people who disappoint you. She never mentioned her father by name, but everyone who knew our story understood what she was really saying. I sat in the audience with my mother, my sister Tasha, and Maya's guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson. When Maya finished speaking and the audience erupted in applause, Mrs. Patterson leaned over and whispered, "That girl is going to change the world someday." I believed her. The college fund wasn't the only thing that was restored. The house was truly ours. The deed had been transferred into my name alone, and I'd refinanced the mortgage at a lower rate, saving us hundreds per month. I'd taken that savings and started my own college fund, not for Maya, whose education was secured, but for me. At 35, I'd started thinking about going back to school for my nurse practitioner license. I'd always wanted to, but had put it off because we couldn't afford it. Turned out, we could afford it. We just couldn't afford Marcus's double life. My credit score had recovered from the identity theft. Elizabeth had helped me file all the necessary reports with the credit bureaus, and the fraudulent credit card debt had been removed from my record. I'd even received a settlement from the credit card company for failing to catch the obvious fraud, $15,000 that I'd put directly into savings. The emergency fund that Marcus had drained was rebuilt, $20,000 this time, enough to cover 6 months of expenses if something went wrong. I'd learned my lesson about keeping all our funds in accounts he could access. Now everything was in my name only, with Maya as the beneficiary. Financially, we were better off than we'd ever been. But the real restoration wasn't financial. It was the morning Maya and I painted her bedroom, her choice of colors this time, not the neutral beige Marcus had insisted on, because it would be better for resale value. She picked a deep teal that made the room feel like an ocean cave, and we spent a Saturday covering those beige walls with color. It was the dinner parties I started hosting, something I'd stopped doing years ago because Marcus always complained about the cost and the effort. Now I invited friends over regularly, and we ate and laughed and stayed up too late talking about everything and nothing. It was the way Maya started bringing friends home again. She'd stopped during her junior year, embarrassed by the tension in the house that I hadn't fully recognized at the time. Now our home was filled with teenage laughter and the chaos of half a dozen kids studying for finals or watching movies or raiding the refrigerator. It was the small things. The way I could buy name-brand groceries without guilt. The way Maya could get the expensive SAT prep course without me having to pick up extra shifts. The way we could plan a college visit trip to Baltimore without checking our account balance 3 times first. But mostly it was the peace, the absence of walking on eggshells, of wondering where he was and what he was doing, of making excuses for forgotten anniversaries and missed events. The house felt lighter without him in it. Happier. More like a home and less like a stage where we all performed our roles. 3 months after sentencing, I got a letter from Marcus. It had been forwarded through Elizabeth's office. Part of the restraining order was that he couldn't contact me directly, but he could send letters through our attorneys. I almost threw it away without reading it. Then I decided I owed it to myself to see what he had to say. The letter was 7 pages long, handwritten on prison stationery. It started with apologies, extensive, detailed apologies for every betrayal, every lie, every hurt he'd caused. He claimed he was in therapy, that he was finally understanding the damage he'd done, that he took full responsibility. Then it shifted to explanations. His father had cheated on his mother. He'd learned from a young age that men weren't supposed to be satisfied with one woman. He'd felt trapped by responsibility, suffocated by domesticity. He'd been depressed and hadn't known how to ask for help. Then came the requests. Could I bring Maya to visit? Could we consider family counseling when he got out? Could I send him photos of Maya's graduation? Could I put some money in his commissary account? I read the whole thing twice, looking for genuine remorse. What I found instead was a man who still didn't fully understand what he'd done wrong. The apologies were surface level. The explanations were excuses, and the requests showed that he still thought he was entitled to access to our lives. I wrote back, 1 paragraph. Marcus, I've read your letter. I'm glad you're in therapy, and I hope it helps you become a better person. However, Maya and I have moved on with our lives. We don't need closure from you or explanations or ongoing contact. What we needed was for you to be a good husband and father, and you weren't. That chapter of our lives is closed. I wish you well, but at a distance. Please don't write again. I sent it through Elizabeth, who approved it with a satisfied nod. Short, clear, no opening for further manipulation. Well done. I never heard from him again. In August, I drove Maya to Baltimore to move her into her dorm at Johns Hopkins. We packed my car with everything she'd need. Bedding, clothes, school supplies, the mini fridge we'd bought on sale. The college fund easily covered her tuition, room, and board, with plenty left over. As we drove, Maya was quiet, looking out the window at the landscape passing by. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just thinking. About how different this would be if everything hadn't happened. If he hadn't stolen the money, if you hadn't fought to get it back. I'd probably be going to community college, or maybe not going at all, working full-time to save up." She turned to look at me. "In a weird way, his betrayal made my future possible, because you fought for me. Your future was always possible," I said firmly. "We would have figured something out. But I'm glad we didn't have to sacrifice anything. You earned this, Maya. You earned it with 4 years of hard work and dedication. The money just makes it easier." We got her moved into her dorm. a small single room that she immediately started decorating with photos and posters. I met her roommate across the hall, a pre-med student from California named Jordan, who seemed smart and kind and made Maya laugh within 5 minutes of meeting her. When it was time for me to leave, Maya walked me back to my car. "You're going to be okay, right?" she asked. "In the house by yourself?" "Baby, I'm going to be great. I have plans. I'm taking that nurse practitioner course starting in January. Tasha and I are talking about taking a trip to Costa Rica in the spring. I'm finally going to learn how to play guitar, something I always wanted to do but never had time for." "You're going to date?" She asked it carefully, like she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Eventually, maybe, when I'm ready, but there's no rush. I'm learning to enjoy my own company first." She hugged me tight. "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for fighting for me, for showing me what strength looks like, for teaching me that I don't have to accept less than I deserve." Sentences pause. "You're welcome, baby. Now go be brilliant. Call me when you can, and remember." I know. Lock my door at night, don't walk alone after dark, eat vegetables sometimes, and call you if I need anything." She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. I drove away watching her in my rearview mirror, standing in front of her dorm building, waving. My daughter, my brilliant, resilient, amazing daughter, the one Marcus had tried to steal from, the one I'd fought for and won. The drive home took 4 hours, and I spent most of it thinking about everything that had happened over the past year. The devastation of discovery, the rage that had fueled my fight, the satisfaction of watching justice served. The unexpected friendships with Candace, Brianna, Ashley, and Melissa, women I'd never have met under normal circumstances, but who'd become part of my support system. When I got home, the house was quiet, empty, but not lonely. I walked through each room, remembering who I'd been a year ago. The woman who'd worked herself to exhaustion for a man who didn't appreciate it, who'd trusted blindly and paid dearly for it. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who'd learned that she could survive anything because she'd already survived the worst thing she could imagine. I opened my laptop and checked Maya's college fund one more time. $187,247.18, enough for 4 years of undergraduate, with some left over for medical school applications. Enough to ensure that my daughter's dreams wouldn't be derailed by anyone's betrayal. Then I checked my own account, the one I'd started for my nurse practitioner program. Between my savings and the settlement money, I had enough to cover tuition without taking out loans. I could finally pursue the career advancement I'd put off for years. Parentheses. My phone buzzed, the Marcus Victims Support Group chat. "Candace, just got promoted to manager at my new restaurant. Turns out I'm good at this when I'm not being manipulated and controlled. Brianna, my daughter's dental work is done, paid for with the restitution money. She's smiling again. We both are. Ashley, started therapy, learning to trust my instincts again. It's hard, but I'm getting there. Melissa, closed on the biggest sale of my career today, celebrating by taking myself on vacation. Who needs a man?" I typed back. Maya moved into Johns Hopkins today. Full ride thanks to her college fund being restored. She's going to be a doctor. We won. Most of all, I thought about myself, about the woman I'd become through surviving this nightmare. Judge Harris had called it justice when she sentenced Marcus. Elizabeth had called it victory when the settlement was finalized. Maya had called it restoration when the money was returned. But sitting there under the stars, in my house, in my life, finally at peace, I knew what it really was. Freedom. Freedom from a man who'd taken my trust and weaponized it. Freedom from financial worry and uncertainty. Freedom from walking on eggshells or making excuses or working myself to death while someone else wasted it all. Freedom to be whoever I wanted to be, to pursue my own dreams, to build a life entirely on my own terms. Marcus had tried to steal my daughter's future and ended up giving me mine. The revenge I'd planned had been swift and brutal. Criminal charges, divorce, financial ruin, prison. I'd executed it with precision and watched him lose everything. But the real revenge, I realize now, wasn't what I'd done to him. It was what I'd done for myself. I'd taken a woman who'd been betrayed at her most vulnerable moment and transformed her into someone who fought back, who won, who rebuilt. I'd taken a daughter who'd lost faith in her father and shown her that she could trust her mother to protect her, always. I'd taken a devastating betrayal and turned it into an origin story, not of a victim, but of a warrior. Maya would graduate from Johns Hopkins in 4 years. She'd go to medical school. She'd become the doctor she'd always dreamed of being. And when she did, she'd know that her future was built on her own merit, her own hard work, and her mother's refusal to let anyone take it from her. And me? At 35, I was just getting started. Nurse practitioner program in January. Maybe that trip to Costa Rica. Guitar lessons. New friends. New dreams. A life so full and rich that Marcus's betrayal would eventually become just a footnote. The thing that happened before everything good began. He'd sold our daughter's college fund for his mistress. I'd found the receipts. Revenge had been swift. But restoration, true restoration, had been even sweeter. Because in the end, he lost everything and gained nothing. And I lost everything I thought I had, only to discover I'd gained something far more valuable. Myself. The judge had called it justice. I called it freedom. And freedom, I was learning, was the best revenge of all. Epilogue. 4 years later, I sat in the audience at Johns Hopkins' graduation ceremony, watching my daughter, now Dr. Maya Williams, having just been accepted to medical school at Harvard, walk across that stage in her cap and gown. She'd done it. Against everything Marcus had tried to take from her, she'd done it. After the ceremony, as we celebrated with dinner and too much champagne, Maya raised her glass. "To my mom," she said, "who taught me that when someone tries to destroy your future, you don't let them. You fight back, you rebuild, and you win." I clinked my glass against hers, both of us grinning. To us, I corrected. To surviving, to thriving. To proving that we were always stronger than anyone who tried to break us. Across the restaurant, my phone buzzed. A notification from the prison system. Marcus Williams has been released on parole. I looked at it for a moment, then deleted it without comment. He was no longer my problem, no longer my concern, no longer part of my story, except as the chapter that taught me my own strength. Maya saw my face. Was that about him? "Doesn't matter," I said. "He's not invited to this celebration." She smiled, that brilliant smile that lit up every room she walked into. And we went back to celebrating her achievement, my upcoming graduation with my NP license, and the life we'd built from the ashes of his betrayal. He'd tried to steal our future. Instead, he'd just made our victory that much sweeter. And that, I thought, was the very best justice of all.